Hi, my name is Jack Willis, and welcome to Seattle Yellow Cab Deliverable number 2. I'm here with Sammy Kootenay, Levi Del Mar, and Scott Turner. So let me tell you a little bit about Seattle Yellow Cab's business process. The system we used will track the profitability and efficiency of cab drivers and their vehicles. The system will also be able to gauge the highest density regions within the city in regards to consumer needs. The measurement event we will be using is our system is going to be able to track every driver bill that a customer has at the end of the service, meaning the total bill charged to the customer. Some of the measures that we're going to be tracking are the time length of the cab trips, the miles driven by each driver, the rate charged, and the total invoice amount charged to the customer. The fact grade that we will be using, while it's a mouthful, it is a given dollar amount charged for a certain amount of miles driven, a certain time duration, applied to a designated rate by a driver in a cab for a customer on a specific date.
All right, my name is Levi. I'm going to take over here for system dimensions. We have 5 different system dimensions that we're going to be using in our facts table. The first is customer, and we want to be able to divvy up our information in our project by customer, looking at our facts at that level. We also want to look at vehicles, so like what vehicle is being a part of the transaction. And actually taking a customer from point A to point B. We want to look at the driver and who's actually driving and performing the service. Pickup locations is also another important part, and we'll talk about that later. And lastly, we have date time. So with each of these dimensions, we're going to go in detail and look at them and what purpose they serve within our BI system. So first we have dim customer and the attributes we have within there. Actually, first off, cardinality, we're expecting to have 300,000 customers, and we don't really know what that's going to look like on a daily basis or a yearly basis, but estimated right now, we feel like that should be a good maximum cardinality for the system, and that could be subject to change probably more than any other dimension that we have in our table. So the attributes we have are customer ID, customer first name, customer last name, and customer phone number. We didn't include a lot of information because we don't really think it's that important to have customer birth date or anything like that. Those are the 4 most important things we feel like we could have from a customer. And that would be used mostly for a couple of reasons. One, on just a transaction level, it's nice to have those for any sort of customer relationship type CRM issues. We also want to be able to cut this up by our BI system so we can look at which customers are using our service the most. We could look at who is making the most money for us. We could be able to use that for advertising purposes or locational purposes. Anyways, we just feel like that's an important way to be able to cut up our information. The second one we have is dim vehicle, and the attributes for that are vehicle ID, vehicle type, vehicle capacity, miles per gallon in the city, and then miles per gallon in the highway. We also have total miles that's on the vehicle, which would be on the odometer. And we have manufacturing year and plate number. The primary key for this one is vehicle ID. And we want to be able to use this for our system because it'll be really great to see which type of vehicles are being the most productive for our company. Are the sedans making us more money, or the vans making us more money? In addition, we also want to be able to take a look at how we're depreciating our vehicles and making sure that vehicles that are older are not being used as much, or maybe taking place in low density areas, and making sure that we're allocating our newer vehicles to higher density locations. Next, we have dim driver. The cardinality for this was 50. We feel like we probably will never have more than 50 drivers for the company. Our attributes are driver ID, which is the primary key, driver first name, driver last name, driver phone number, driver email, social security number, driver's license ID, cab license, and lastly, birth date. We actually feel like driver is a really important dimension because of the fact that we can look at our measures based on which drivers are being the most productive. Invoice is a huge part of that because better drivers are going to have higher invoices with tips included. In addition, we also want to see who is getting the most calls and reacting the quickest. Whoever is basically getting the most amount of invoices, essentially, who is ever getting the most lines within the BI system, or rows rather. So that's really important to be able to cut up our measures like that. Next we have dim pickup location, and the cart. This one actually has hierarchies to it. There are 3 different hierarchies. First we have region, and the cardinality for that was 15, then city, which is 4, and then area code, which is 3. A little bit about this, with dim location, we're cutting those up into regions. We'll actually probably take a map later on and draw out a bunch of different locations that make sense to how you'd apply rates within a city. We want different cab rates to be applied to different locations. And we feel like this dimension is a great way to do that. So dim pickup location has location ID as a primary key, then region name, and then region city ID is a foreign key. And then it goes down to dim city and then dim area code, which is the largest level of, or actually smallest level of dimension, but largest area scope-wise if you're looking at a map. Next we have, last we have dim date time, and this is another one that has hierarchies. And this is pretty straightforward. We have, we actually are missing a couple things here on the PowerPoint here. This should have month ID as a foreign key, and this one should have year ID as a foreign key as well. But basically this is the standard look of what that is, and it's pretty typical for a date time dimension.
So now we're just going to look at the measures table. Our fact measure is the service fact table. And inside this table we have 4 measures: the miles driven, the rate, the time length, and invoice amount. The miles driven just measures the amount of miles driven between pickup and drop off of a customer. The rate is the rate that is applied to a specific service. This will be determined by zones, which we will map out at a later date. The time length is just the amount of time between pickup and drop off. It's measured in minutes and seconds. The invoice amount is a total amount charged to a customer. And this is what the Snowflake schema looks like inside a database. You can see we have our fact table and all of our dim tables there: dim driver, vehicle, dim pickup location, dim city, dim area code, dim customer, and all the foreign and primary key relationships are in there. And that is a short presentation on our Seattle Yellow Cab Company Deliverable 2. Thanks for listening.